annual Great Toy Drive. Drop off a new unwrapped toy at any Les Schwab Tire Center. Hi, I'm Laurel Porter. This year, donate a memory that will last a lifetime. Give to the 20th annual Great Toy Drive.
Sponsored by Les Schwab Tires.
From NBC News in Washington, this is Meet the Press with Tim Russert.
Our issues this Sunday: the search for Osama bin Laden, the controversy over military tribunals. With us, the man who runs the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. The debate over economic stimulus, trade, cloning, and oil drilling turns acrimonious. What has happened to the post-September 11th bipartisanship?
Can Tom Daschle be the only one that's right and everybody else is wrong?
With us, the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Tom Daschle, Democrat from South Dakota. And in our Meet the Press Minute, 50 years ago this very day, a young Massachusetts congressman returned home from a trip to the Middle East with an eerily prescient report.
But first, death and destruction in Israel. Hundreds injured, at least 25 dead in 4 separate bombings. Last night, 2 suicide bombers in a downtown Jerusalem mall. Then this car bomb. Time to go off when rescue workers were trying to help the injured. Then this morning, another suicide bomber boarded a bus in Haifa, and you see the devastation. Let's go live to Jerusalem. We're joined by NBC's Keith Miller. Keith, what are you seeing and hearing on the streets of Jerusalem this morning?
Well, just a moment ago, in fact, Tim, they reopened this pedestrian mall, allowing people back into the area. Last night, as you know, the incredible carnage that occurred here, 3 explosions, 2 suicide bombers, and a car bomb. The car bomb was meant to get those people who were rescuing the injured, but it went off on another street where very few people were at the time. An extraordinary series of events here, that bombing up in Haifa, also a shooting in Gaza, a shooting in East Jerusalem. It has absolutely led to dismay, anger, and even fear here in Jerusalem and throughout Israel. They feel that there is some sort of coordinated effort by the part of perhaps Hamas and other terrorist groups to try to get coordinated and strike fear and terror into Israel.
Keith, is there any feeling that the peace process should go forward now, or is there more a mood for simple revenge?
I think revenge is the right word there, Tim. In fact, General Zinni, the president's man on the spot here, who was supposed to get the peace talks back on track, he was greeted here by boos and catcalls, told to go home, we don't want you. There's a feeling here that there is no time for talking, now is a time for retaliation. This is the land for an eye, and it's now Israel's time to pay back, and that's exactly what's going to happen. We do know that the Israeli security debate in the council today, they just had a debate about what they should do next. Nothing will probably happen until the Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, returns here. I must also add, Tim, we just heard just a moment ago that the Palestinian Authority has declared a state of emergency in the West Bank and vows that they will bring those responsible for the bombings to justice.
What is being said about Yasser Arafat of the PLO and as to his responsibility for harboring or encouraging terrorism with his language?
There's absolutely no doubt that the people here hold Yasser Arafat personally responsible. When I just mentioned to you the fact that the Palestinian Authority was going to bring those people responsible to justice, a number of people who are crowded around this area started saying, no, 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 no. They don't believe him. He has no credibility here. Some people are saying that there is an impossibility to have peace here as long as he remains in the leadership of the Palestinian Authority.
Keith, there has been discussion in years past, but much more increasingly so over the last few weeks and months, about building a fence, building a wall to protect Israel. Is that now gaining any credibility?
Tim, I think all options are on the table now. The Israeli public is so extraordinarily angered by the 14 months of hostilities ending in basically a slaughter, a massacre of young people on this street last night, that I think everything is certainly on the boards, including building a wall. And I think if that was what Sharon wanted, I think everybody in this country would add a brick to try to help out that.
Keith Miller, thank you for your report, and please be careful. Joining us now is the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. Mr. Secretary, welcome.
Thank you.
The events in Israel just chilling.
Indeed.
Hamas, the terrorist group, has claimed responsibility. The President of the United States has said he will go after all terrorists. Will we go after Hamas?
Well, of course, that's a question for the President, not for me. There's no question but that Hamas has been a vicious terrorist organization for many, many years. There's something about suicide bombers that go against innocent men, women, and children that is particularly vicious. I noticed the use of the word revenge and retribution and that type of thing. It seems to me that there's an even better reason to deal with a problem like that, and that is self-defense. There isn't any way to defend against terrorists at every spot on the face of the globe or in a country, against every technique, at every moment of the day or night. The only way to defend against terrorists is to go after the terrorists.
Do you think that Yasser Arafat is a terrorist?
I think that Yasser Arafat has, it's not for me to characterize him, but if one looks historically, he has been involved in terrorist activities. We all know that. That's been his background. We also know that his, he is not a particularly strong leader. And I don't know that he has good control over the Palestinian situation. He has not ever delivered anything for the Palestinian people throughout history. It was Sadat and Menachem Begin that delivered the only piece of real estate that's actually been delivered to the Palestinian people. So his record is not a particularly impressive one.
Should President Bush bring Mr. Arafat and Mr. Sharon together in Washington, close the door, and try to hammer out point by point a peace deal?
Well, that's been tried by a lot of people, and let me say that's for President Bush and for Secretary Powell to sort through. That's not an issue that I'm involved in particularly. But a lot of presidents have tried that. I was a Middle East envoy for President Reagan, and in the last analysis, you cannot simply grab people by the scuff of the neck and put them together and make them live together. It's what happens on the ground that makes the difference. And Israel has a very small piece of real estate, and many of its neighbors have vowed to push them into the sea, and they have a difficult circumstance. I don't know what the answer is. I think President Bush and Secretary Powell have been very aggressive in trying to assist those parties in sorting something out. So was the last administration. And indeed, it came quite close. And Mr. Arafat walked away from a deal that is, when one looks back, was a very good deal for the Palestinians. And I think that was an enormous mistake.
Let me turn to Afghanistan. Major James Higgins, a Marine on the ground there, said that the situation in Kandahar has reached the culmination point. Where are we in Afghanistan, specifically Kandahar?
Kandahar, the situation is that the Taliban are holding on. Mullah Omar is instructing his people to continue to fight.
How many are there?
It's hard to know, thousands, but how many, it's very difficult to know. We don't have a head count. We'd like to know precisely. At the moment, it looks like, at least with respect to one of the elements, the tribal leaders that's threatening Kandahar, that they have considerably more in Kandahar and environs, Taliban, than he has. So it will take some reinforcement. It'll take some assistance from the air. The hope is that they'll surrender and save the city and save some of their lives, and that they will do that. The problem is that in most of these situations, there have been not just Afghans, but also outsiders, mostly Arab, but in some cases Pakistanis and other countries, some Chinese, some Chechens, and they tended to be the most determined and the toughest fighters. And in some cases, they have actually killed Afghan Taliban if they threaten to surrender or to defect. So it is a complicated situation. If they don't surrender, they're going to be killed.
Mohammed Omar, we will not let him escape, period.
Well, let me put it this way. We will do everything in the power of the United States to see that he does not escape.
We will not allow any arrangement where he would be allowed to let go.
We will argue vigorously against anyone attempting to make an arrangement that would let him go. We are not physically in control of Afghanistan. The opposition forces that have been opposing the Taliban are the ones that are physically on the ground. We've got some handfuls of people, you know, 1,000 or something, but 1,500, 2,000 in that range, 1,500 to 2,000 people in a big country. So what we have to do is constantly work with those opposition leaders so that they understand how determined we are that those senior Taliban and senior al-Qaeda leaders are not released, and that the foreigners are not released to go destabilize another country.
The search for Osama bin Laden, there was constant discussion about him hiding out in caves, and I think many times the American people have a perception that it's a little hole dug out of a side of a mountain.
Oh, no.
The Times of London did a graphic, which I want to put on the screen for you and our viewers. This is it. This is a fortress.
Yes.
This is very much a complex, multi-tiered, bedrooms and offices on the top, as you can see. Secret exits on the side and on the bottom. Cut deep to avoid thermal detection, so when our planes fly over, trying to determine if there are any human beings in there, it's built so deeply down and embedded in the mountain and rock, it's hard to detect. And over here, valleys guarded, as you can see, by some Taliban soldiers. A ventilation system to allow people to breathe and to carry on. An arms and ammunition depot. And you can see here the exits leading into it, and the entrances large enough to drive trucks and cars and even tanks. And its own hydroelectric power to help keep lights on, even computer systems and telephone systems. It's a very sophisticated operation.
Oh, you bet. This is serious business. And there's not one of those. There are many of those. And they have been used very effectively. And I might add, Afghanistan is not the only country that has gone underground. Any number of countries have gone underground. The tunneling equipment that exists today is very powerful. It's dual use. It's available across the globe. And people have recognized the advantages of using underground protection for themselves.
It may take us going from cave to cave with a great group of men I know in the United States military, the tunnel rats, to try to flush out Osama bin Laden.
We are entering a very dangerous aspect of this conflict. There is no question about it. It is a confused situation in the country. The amount of real estate they have to operate on has continually been reduced. The noose is tightening, but the remaining task is a particularly dirty and unpleasant one.
If need be, would we put gas into those caves to flush him out?
Well, I noticed that in Mazar, the way they finally got the dead enders to come out was by flooding the tunnel. And finally they came up and surrendered, the last hardcore al-Qaeda elements. And I guess one will do whatever it is necessary to do. If people will not surrender, then they've made their choice.
Let me turn to the situation on the ground. This is a headline from the Washington Post. U.S. talks to Moscow about force in Kabul, taken off guard by the arrival of scores of Russian troops in Kabul. Colin Powell spoke to the foreign minister by phone and urged Moscow to avoid abrupt diplomatic and military moves in Afghanistan. Are we surprised, or are we concerned the Russians are trying to reassert their influence in Afghanistan by sending in troops without our permission?
Actually, I did receive a call from the Minister of Defense on the subject, indicating that they wanted to bring some planes in. The planes were cleared for the Bagram airport, and he indicated what they were bringing in, the numbers of people, and what the purpose was. It was to begin to reestablish some diplomatic activity and to have sufficient forces to protect that diplomatic activity, to move towards some humanitarian assistance. I am not concerned at the moment. I have not seen anything in their behavior that was untoward.
Other countries, let me show you another headline from the New York Times. Many eager to help, few are chosen. 35 countries offered to help send aircraft, ships, soldiers to help hunt down Taliban and al-Qaeda and support those forces, but they've been basically doing nothing but support. Why not bring in the Brits, the French, the Turks to help us in this search?
Well, first of all, they've been doing a lot more than your comment suggests. They have ships, they have provided intelligence, we have coalition forces physically on the ground operating in Afghanistan today, non-U.S. coalition forces. One of the issues has been that the United States seems to have persuaded Afghanistan that we do not covet their land, that we do not want to stay, that we are there to rid that country of the Taliban and the al-Qaeda. And Afghans are historically skeptical about non-Afghans. And so when we try to bring in coalition forces to assist us, sometimes we've had difficulty. That is to say, the forces on the ground have not quite been ready to bring in other countries besides the United States. Now, we have some foreign nationals, non-U.S. coalition partners in there, but it takes a good deal of discussion with those opposition forces, and that is what's caused some of the delays. We are very anxious to have the right kind of help. Second, the work going on in Bonn to try to figure out whether or not there's a need for stabilizing forces is taking place. And until some decision is made as to whether or not it's appropriate to have a peacekeeping force, and if so, what countries might be most appropriate to make up that peacekeeping force, I think that it's not surprising that the peacekeeping force has not gone in.
Once Taliban has been destroyed, Osama bin Laden in custody, there will be a need for a multinational force, peacekeeping force, as you said, in Afghanistan to help stabilize it.
That's not clear. If the forces on the ground are able to provide a stable situation such that the humanitarian aid can get in, then there wouldn't be a need for a international peacekeeping force.
If there is a need, you would prefer the United States not participate?
Well, we've got an awful lot to do, and we want to participate with humanitarian assistance. We certainly want to have enough activity in Afghanistan so we can finish the job. I suspect that if there is to be humanitarian activity going in, which there must be, or people are going to starve, and if there is to be an international peacekeeping force, the key thing is that it be done in a way that we're free to go after the Taliban and after the Al-Qaeda, because that task is going to take some time. And I think it's important that the world understand that we are leaning forward, not back. We expect that there will be casualties. We expect that there will be people captured. And we recognize how difficult this is going to be. And when that happens, the United States will be leaning forward, not back.
You think
there will be no doubt.
You think we have a few months of long, bloody battle?
Oh, I wouldn't limit it to that.
Pakistan. A lot of discussion. Both Northern Alliance and Taliban soldiers have said they've seen the Pakistanis fly airplanes in to bring out Pakistanis who were fighting with the Taliban or with Al-Qaeda. Can you assure this people watching today that the United States government did not see or in any way tolerate the evacuation of Pakistani terrorists?
Oh, you can be certain of that. We have not seen a single, to my knowledge, we have not seen a single airplane or helicopter go into Afghanistan in recent days or weeks and extract people and take them out of Afghanistan to any country, let alone Pakistan. The Pakistani government is cooperating with the United States. They're putting crack troops up along the border. The border's a long border. It's a porous border. It's a very difficult thing to know precisely what's happening at any given moment. We have coverage in the air, and we watch to the extent it's humanly possible.
And it hasn't happened.
We have not seen anything that even begins to approximate those reports.
Military tribunals. The President has given an order as Commander-in-Chief that military tribunals be established if need be. What does that mean to you?
It means that the President, as was the case with George Washington during the Civil War with Abraham Lincoln and with Franklin Roosevelt during World War II, has said that it may be that we will need that option. And as a result, he has put in place and begun the work to develop the kinds of procedures and approaches that would be appropriate so that in the event that we need to have a military commission, that we would be in a place to detain a person and take control over a person that he designates. He has not designated anyone to be tried by a military commission. He may not, but he may. And if he does, he wanted to get the military order out designating the Secretary of Defense as the person responsible so that that work could begin. I must say I've been interested in the press discussion and media discussion on the subject. I think it's been generally useful. It's elevated a lot of issues that are important and need to be considered. Some of it's been a little shrill, given the fact that nobody's been designated yet to be tried by a military commission. But overall, those of us in the Department of Defense have found it useful, and we are working very hard with some very smart people all across the country, out of government, to try to make sure that we do this in the event it happens, in a very measured, balanced, thoughtful way that reflects our country's values and approaches.
Let me go back to the World Trade Center in 1993 and show you some video of Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman. Here he is on the screen. You can see him. He was convicted for blowing up the Trade Center in '93. His son has now been taken into custody in Afghanistan. Is his son the kind of person that would go before a military tribunal?
Until we have developed the information that I need to make sensible judgments on something as important as this, I've decided not to opine on things like that. And second, I would say that that's a decision for the president. He will be the one who will designate what individuals will be assigned to the Department of Defense to take control over and then deal with respect to military commissions.
As you have mentioned, there's a lot of discussion about this issue. Terry Galway in the New York Observer had this to say: if a terrorist is convicted by a military tribunal of something less than a capital crime, for example, attempted murder or possession of a weapon, will a subsequent sentence be served in a special military facility? If so, we can expect convicted al-Qaeda operatives to demand recognition as prisoners of war. Have you thought that through? Where will they serve their time? Will they be prisoners of war?
We have thought through a good deal of it, and we're in the process of discussing some preliminary thoughts with, as I say, some truly outstanding legal advisors from around the country, out of government, people whose judgment we respect. And we're not prepared at the moment to draw conclusions, and we will be at some point in the future.
There is some downside, as you know. This headline caught it: Europeans reluctant to send terror suspects to the United States, even though they've arrested some since September 11th, because the continent's harsh view of the U.S. legal system, particularly President Bush's plan for secret military tribunals, is creating resistance to possible extradition of suspects to the United States. So you have countries arresting people, but they're saying, we're not sending them to the United States because we don't have faith in military tribunals.
Mm-hmm. First of all, we don't know that that's true. That's a report that may or may not have substance under it. If it is true, it may be true in a very modest situation and not broadly true. Third, we have known for years that there's some differences in Europe with respect to views as to capital punishment. And that's fair enough. They have their countries, we have ours. They can make their judgments. I would suggest that I think that'll not prove to be much of an impediment.
But the United States has been critical of Peru and Egypt and China for military tribunals. If a United States citizen was arrested as a suspected terrorist in China, would you feel comfortable with that American going before a military tribunal in China?
If one looked down from Mars and looked at the countries of the world and said, if you had someone in whom you had an interest, where would you prefer, of all the countries on the face of the earth, where would you prefer that individual be tried in a military commission? I would think an overwhelming number of the people in the world would prefer it be done in the United States. We have a reputation for being fair and balanced and measured in what we do.
But other countries may react to that by creating their own military tribunals for American citizens.
Other countries already have military tribunals.
And we've criticized them for it.
And in cases where we've disagreed with how they've been handled, we have indeed, and we will in the future. And I'm sure that people will criticize us if we behave in a way that they, in their measured judgment, feel we've acted improperly. But I don't think we're going to act improperly, Tim.
Let me move to Iraq. This headline in the LA Times Thursday caught my attention. U.S. vows not to attack Iraq. The Egyptian foreign minister said Wednesday that his government, the closest U.S. ally in the Arab world, has received a, quote, understanding that the Bush administration will not use military force against Iraq or any other Arab government accused of harboring terrorists. Has he received such an understanding?
The only person who could make such an understanding is the President of the United States, and he hasn't.
What happened here? He's mistaken?
Well, I mean, people have misunderstandings all the time. 5 people listen to a discussion and walk out and write down what they heard, and you'll get 5 different versions.
3 years ago this month, the last inspector left Iraq. Will we demand that Saddam Hussein allow in United Nations inspectors to find out just how developed his biological, chemical, and perhaps nuclear weapon systems are?
That's a call the President and the Secretary of State, of course, are going to have to consider. The reality is that we had inspectors in Iraq for many years, and we didn't find much. The way we found information about what was going on with Saddam Hussein's chemical and biological and nuclear programs was through defectors. When they left, got out of the country, told the truth, That's when we learned the most. It is enormously difficult, even with the most intrusive inspection system, to find out what's actually going on. Saddam Hussein has had mobile biological laboratories where he could move them from place to place, and it is very difficult to find out. Now, there ought to be inspections. The UN resolutions call for inspections. He is violating the UN resolutions. Ought we to have inspectors? Of course. But is it possible to know of certain knowledge? We know that man is determined to have those weapons. He has them, and he's used them against his own people.
Why are we importing a million barrels of oil a day from Iraq?
It is a complicated matter with respect to that. He is, under the UN resolutions, as I understand it, allowed, if you will.
But is it a good idea for us to use Iraqi oil?
The issue came up with, it's tied to food and medicines is the issue. And the world community, in its infinite judgment, came to the conclusion, as I understand it, that the Iraqi people ought not to be penalized because of a vicious dictator that's repressing them. And one way to do that would be to permit a certain amount of oil from Iraq to be exported in exchange for non-lethal things such as food and medicine. And that is the underpinning of the world community's
You have no
decision.
problem importing a million barrels of Iraqi oil a day?
I am not going to disagree with the U.S. position, which has supported an arrangement whereby food and medicine was able to enter the country. The problem I have is with Saddam Hussein. He keeps the food and medicine from his people.
Then why not
He uses it to his benefit.
Why not go get them?
Well, let's call for somebody other than Don Rumsfeld.
Would you like that?
Oh, Tim, I'm here asked to come into this government and work for the President of the United States, and I'll give him my advice.
Tonight, there will be a test. It was supposed to be last night, postponed because of weather, about a missile defense system. Tom Friedman of the New York Times wrote an interesting article, and I'll put it on the screen for everyone. The Bush team's about to make a big mistake. Mr. Putin, the president of Russia, has made the decision to go west, but he's way out ahead of his generals, his public. He needs the continued cover of the anti-ballistic missile treaty to keep them moving west, too. He's willing to concede limited testing under ABM. Give him what he wants. Let's have more Putin, less testing, because more testing buys us nothing. Less Putin really hurts us. If we had a complete Star Wars missile shield on September 11th, it would not have saved a single American life. But if we had put our priorities right and begin by forging a strategic partnership with Russia, we can still test anti-missile systems and have real Russian cooperation to meet the threats of September 11th and beyond, which are so much more important.
Well, Tom Friedman's a thoughtful person, but the reality is that asymmetrical threats are, in fact, a threat to our country. Terrorism is, as he points out, but so too are cruise missiles and ballistic missiles and cyber attacks. And we make a big mistake if we react to the most recent event and say, oh my goodness, that's the problem, and nothing else is, because that's just not true. We have to look at the full spectrum of asymmetrical threats. Second, the President of the United States is doing exactly what the columnist is advising. He is working with the Russian leadership, as has Secretary Powell, as have I, in attempting to encourage them to turn west. And it appears they may be turning west. And that is a good thing. I don't discount that at all. The United States, however, the President has pointed out, has to find a new framework for that relationship. We have to set that treaty aside so we can do the kinds of testing that is necessary, and the President's determined to do that.
Many people have commented that for the first 8 months as Secretary of Defense, you seem to be insular, detached, but since September 11th, as Secretary of War, you've been energized. You think that's fair?
Oh, I don't know. It's not for me to judge. We had a lot of complicated things to deal with. This institution, the Department of Defense, is so central to peace and stability in the world and to our economy. And it's the underpinning of our economy. We don't have a healthy economic situation in the world absent peace and stability. So how we behave is enormously important, and we must transform this institution. We cannot simply hang on to the capabilities that were appropriate in a prior century. We need to think things anew. We need to take steps that are bold and innovative and that will position us so that we can continue to provide peace, stability in the period ahead. And that takes transformation. And that's what I was working on.
Is there any chance that because of the recession and the concerns about the guns, butter issues of America, that the war on terrorism will become more timid, more restrained, as the president has to focus more and more on the economic situation back home?
Oh, not a chance. These things can't be disaggregated and put in separate pigeonholes or baskets. The president understands that. He understands that the health of this economy depends on our having a peaceful world and a peaceful country, and the ability of people to get up in the morning and go about their business. He is determined to seek out the terrorists and the states that are harboring those terrorists and see that they no longer are able to threaten the American people and our friends and allies and deployed forces.
America has gotten used to Donald Rumsfeld briefing on a regular basis. Saturday Night Live has captured that as well. Let me show you the Saturday Night Live version of Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld.
So bad. I'm not that way.
You sure?
I hope not.
I learned yesterday that in college, you would do one-arm push-ups for money. True or false?
True.
What does that tell me about you?
Well, that I didn't have much money and I needed to scrape together a few
Can you
bucks.
give me 10 right now? Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, we thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming next, the views of the Democratic leader of the United States Senate, Tom Daschle, Democrat from South Dakota. Our Meet the Press Minute with John F. Kennedy from 50 years ago this very day, December 2nd, 1951. Coming up on Meet the Press.
Meet the Press is sponsored by ADM, the nature of what's to come.
An aging population is crying out. Can you hear me? ADM believes that for every problem, nature has an answer. Why do the Japanese with a diet rich in soy have 1/8 the incidence of prostate cancer? We're finding out and creating natural supplements called nutraceuticals. ADM, the nature of what's to come.
You can slow down investing. You can stop investing entirely.
There was one man who had a funny hat.
But you can't stop curious toddlers from one day becoming college freshmen.
And there was a small man that someone put him in a bird cage.
Which is why your Morgan Stanley financial advisor will never let you lose sight of what you're investing for.
And
Is 106 cubic feet of interior space really necessary? As a matter of fact, it is. Avalon, the most spacious sedan we've ever created.
What's the problem, Lacey?
We're running out of plastics for that cell phone contract.
Okay, Miller, squeeze your suppliers. Costello, see if our Tokyo plant has any. Harmon, are you listening?
No, sir. I'm getting 10 tons of plastic delivered tomorrow.
GE Polymerland, the 24/7 global website that can solve plastic problems instantly. Order today, take delivery right away.
Thank you, Lacey, for hiring Harmon.
GE Polymerland.
Our consultants say this is the best piece of strategic thinking they've ever done. But our IT guys say it's a fantasy. They say it won't work.
And you want to know who's telling you the truth?
Exactly.
Well, there's the rub, Stanley. They both are.
Strategies you can actually execute? It's not a fantasy.
And we're back. Senator Daschle, welcome.
Thank you, Tim.
Israel, Hamas has claimed responsibility for these terrible terrorist acts. Should the United States go after Hamas? Should we go after Yasser Arafat?
Well, Tim, I think that Don Rumsfeld was right. We've got to go after terrorism wherever it exists. The president has already listed Hamas as a terrorist organization. He hasn't specifically said anything about this particular incident yet, but we've got to be supportive of all efforts to rid ourselves of terrorism, especially in situations like this.
Should we try to bring Mr. Sharon to Washington, keep him here, and bring Mr. Arafat over and close him in a room with the president and try to hammer out an arrangement?
Well, I think the real pressure now has to be on Mr. Arafat to deliver. He's got to commit to finding the terrorists, hold them responsible, take them and bring them to justice, and we've got to do all that we can to insist that that happens. Whatever influence, whatever power, whatever resources we have to do that has to be done, and I think it has to be done immediately.
Should the president be engaged personally?
Well, I think that we'll leave that to the president. I think that we've got to do all that is possible, and I think presidential leadership in the past has shown itself to be a very valuable tool in bringing about the desired result. I see no reason why, in this case, we shouldn't do everything we can to insist that Mr. Arafat live up to our expectations.
Are you comfortable with President Bush's order for military tribunals for suspected foreign terrorists?
Well, Tim, we really don't know the details yet. I am very concerned about ensuring constitutional rights and protections that we've lived with for over 200 years. I think it's very, very important that we ensure that. But I would also hasten to add, we've got to give every law enforcement tool available to the Attorney General, to law enforcement officials, to ensure that justice is carried out. So it's finding that delicate balance that I think we've got to continue to strive for. Our country was built on a rule of law. I think we've got to ensure that we sustain that rule of law under all circumstances.
But you could accept military tribunals?
Well, under certain circumstances, very, very restricted circumstances, depending on how it's handled, I think I'm willing to look at it. I'm not willing to commit today, but certainly I think with regard to the situation in Afghanistan in particular, trying Taliban or terrorist people involved in terrorist activity, clearly there is at least the possibility that something like that might have merit.
Newsweek says that 71% of the American people believe the president has got it right in terms of balancing security and civil liberties. 11% think he's gone too far. 14% believe he hasn't gone far enough. So you have 85% of the American people comfortable with the way President Bush has handled this vis-a-vis civil liberties. Are you surprised by that?
I'm not really surprised because I think people are very concerned about our ability to deal with terrorists under all circumstances, especially after they've been apprehended. So I'm not surprised with that. I do think, though, that we don't know enough. We really haven't seen specifically how these tribunals are going to be handled. We don't know whether human rights or civil rights are going to be violated. So I think we've got to be very skeptical, but I think in the end of the day, I think to the extent we can be supportive, I think that's important too.
Let me turn homeward here. Lots of debate and discussion, issues before you in the Senate. This is how the Wall Street Journal editorialized, and look at that headline. President Daschle. The South Dakotan's political strategy is obvious if cynical. He's wrapping his arms tightly around a popular president on the war and foreign policy, but on the domestic front, he's conducting his own guerrilla war against Mr. Bush, blocking the president's agenda at every turn, and so far he's gotten away with it. Tom Daschle might well as be president.
Well, Tim,
is that music to your ears, President Daschle?
No. Listen, the president and I have worked as closely together as I've worked with anybody over the last several years. It was his agenda to pass a $40 billion supplemental for the Defense Department in New York, and we did it. It was his agenda to pass an airport security bill, and we did it. It was his agenda to pass a counterterrorism bill, and we did it. His agenda to support the airlines in an effort to ensure that they can be subsidized so that they stay flying. We did it. We've done all of those pieces that the Bush administration has indicated were important to this country and the agenda in the aftermath of September 11th. We've done it. We're going to do more. I think we'll have an economic stimulus bill. I think we'll have a terror insurance bill. We're going to finish our appropriations bills. So there's a lot to be said for what has already been done, and we're going to continue to work together where we can to ensure that other issues are addressed as well.
During this time of war, will you give the president his defense bill without cluttering it with other amendments for Homeland Security and other things? Just give him the defense money he wants.
Well, it's more than just giving defense money. We think that one of the key questions about what we do in the aftermath of September 11th is protecting the American population. Homeland defense is something you're going to continue to hear a lot about for years to come. We think we need to make the commitment. The Director of Homeland Defense has said he is going to be asking for additional resources. Well, our question is, why wait? We've got to buy vaccine. We've got to protect our infrastructure. We've got to find ways to work with law enforcement, and the only way we can do that is with additional resources. We're asking for a very small amount, and that will be one of the key questions about the administration's commitment, I'd say Republican and Democratic commitment to Homeland Defense in the coming weeks.
But you won't hold up the defense bill if the president is opposed to that.
We're not intending to hold anything up. What we are intending to do is to have a very good debate and lay our proposal down so that we have an opportunity to discuss the merits of a Homeland Security a framework in this country. We've got to do that.
As you know, many people, observers, particularly the Republicans, are saying this is the same playbook that George Mitchell, your predecessor as majority leader, used against former President Bush. And they refer to this memo, and I'll put it on the screen here. The Democrats blame Bush for recession, but won't criticize him on the war effort. It's a rally around the commander-in-chief, and it was laid out in a recent memo titled Politics After the Attack. It was written by Democratic strategists James Carville, Stanley Greenberg, and Robert Shrum. The Democrats think a recession is bad for the country, but good for them politically, Trent Lott said. They're doing a blatant partisan political maneuver. I think what the Democrats are doing is shameful, absurd, and poorly timed. Have you seen this memo?
I have not, Tim, no.
You're not using this as your playbook?
Absolutely not.
The White House had this to say, and this is the president's chief economic advisor, Lawrence Lindsay. He said that Daschle's opposition to President Bush's economic agenda is an abdication of responsibility at a time when America is in a war and a recession. Mr. Daschle has not moved on energy, economic stimulus, terrorism, insurance, trade, but he moves the railroad retirement bill, which certainly is not a pressing national need and never has been. The railroad pension bill is being championed by the AFL-CIO, one of the Democrats' biggest campaign contributors.
Well, Tim, that kind of shrill rhetoric really has no place, and it's so erroneous, I don't know where to start. First of all, I would say that the railroad retirement bill passed the House, and there was no criticism of the fact that it passed in the House, controlled by the Republicans. It has 74 co-sponsors, a majority of members of both the House, I should say the Senate Democratic and Republican caucuses. We have worked on all these issues together. I've already enumerated them. We intend to get an economic stimulus bill. We're going to find our way to try to address the terrorist insurance legislation. So this could yet be a very productive session on additional items important to the administration. So I think that rhetoric is way off base, and I'm disappointed that people are using it.
The Republicans are pointing to this, and I'll put it on the screen. They say that Mr. Daschle is scheduled to take part in a multi-state fundraising tour the week of December 10th. The trip will stop in Kansas City, Detroit, California, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. And the Republican leader, Tom DeLay, had this to say, that Daschle is willing to derail vital pieces of the national agenda in an effort to clear the Senate calendar for a Democratic fundraising trip. America's at war, both at home and abroad. Our economy officially entered a recession. Daschle refuses to pass an economic stimulus plan. Our country is dependent on foreign oil. Daschle refuses to pass an energy security bill. Scientists playing God by cloning human embryos. Daschle refuses to respond. Will you cancel your fundraising trip September 10th, stay here in Washington to work on these issues?
Absolutely, Tim. That was, we all thought we'd be out of session by now.
So it's canceled?
Absolutely. We have not, we're not planning to do any long fundraising tour because we're going to be in session. We'll be in session every day during that week because it is important for us. So we've got to address these issues. But let me just say, we have done everything I know to do to bring the Republicans to the table in negotiating an economic stimulus bill. We've changed our proposals. We've offered many different procedural routes to accomplish what we both say we want. But at least for now, the Republicans continue to say no. We've even split the economic stimulus package into two pieces so they don't have to deal with the spending side. We think Homeland Security is critical to our long-term economic security and future, but the Republicans refuse to invest in all of those pieces that we think could make this country safer.
In your mind, what must the Republicans abandon or drop in their stimulus bill for it to pass the Senate?
Well, I think everything can be on the table at the beginning. What Democrats truly want is ensuring that the unemployed workers of this country are going to get help. We want to ensure that they get the unemployment insurance, that they get health care, that to the extent we give rebates to anybody, we consider them. Those are the kinds of things we want. I do think that it's a fallacious approach to stimulus to accelerate the tax cuts that were passed last year, or to give an AMT relief, $1 billion to General Motors or IBM or Ford when they've got cash on hand. That isn't the approach we ought to use, but we're not saying that the price of admission ought to be that they drop those. We'll talk about them. I just think that there's a strong argument to be made against them.
Will President Bush have to overrule Tom DeLay and Dick Armey in order to get an agreement with you?
Well, that depends on Tom DeLay and Dick Armey and the president. I'm not here to give advice to the administration, but I do believe that they've got to be willing to come to the middle, and so far I have seen very little evidence that some of the Republicans in the House are prepared to come to the middle.
You have agreed on Monday, reluctantly, to have votes on cloning and on drilling in Alaska. A vote for cloture, if you will, 60 votes to cut off debate. Do you have the 60 votes to stop debate?
Well, I believe that, well, first of all, I don't know that we want to stop debate on ANWR. I think that that's a very critical question, and we want to have a good debate about that. This is a critical issue for our long-term energy and our environmental policy in this country. Well, that debate ought to take place immediately when we come back next year. I don't think that we ought to do it on an afternoon, a Monday afternoon at best, before we make a commitment on something like this.
Do you think a majority of senators are for drilling in ANWR?
I don't know if a majority are or are not. I will say this, Tim, it just doesn't make sense for us to wait 10 years for 6 months of supply, which is what ANWR represents, and destroy one of the most pristine parts of our country's environment in the process. That doesn't make sense. It's old approaches to energy policy that we've got to abandon. What we've got to do is look for new ways to conserve, look for new ways to develop new kinds of energy, and obviously spur production in those environmentally safe areas. We can do that. We don't need to drill in ANWR, and that in part is what this debate will be all about.
But Republicans say we're importing 1 million barrels a day from Iraq. Let's develop our own resources.
I'm for that, but I don't think we need to go to one of the most unique parts of our country to do it.
Will cloning ban pass?
I don't.
A moratorium?
I can't really predict today what will pass. I think we've got to be very careful about making decisions on this sophisticated issue without a lot of careful deliberation. I think we need to go very slowly. Obviously, we're opposed to human cloning, but this opportunity to advance research in the effort to bring about cures for some of the most critical diseases in this country also deserves support, and we've got to find that balance.
The House Democrats are going to launch a television commercials against the president, calling it the Bush recession. The Republican leader in the House, Tom Davis, has said it's unpatriotic. Are you comfortable with attack ads on television against President Bush at this time of war?
Well, of course, the Republicans have been running attack ads now for some time against many Democrats, including Mr. Gephardt and myself. So that's not uncommon. I think we do have to be careful about what rhetoric we use and how we use it. I think it is important for us to express ourselves, and I haven't seen the ad, so I'd rather not comment until I do.
Your office in the Hart Building was cleaned yesterday with chlorine dioxide trying to kill the anthrax spores. Has it been successful?
We don't know. We probably won't know for a couple of days yet. Everything went smoothly yesterday. We were very pleased with the way it all happened. The monitoring would indicate, at least so far, that everything that we had expected would happen has happened.
Senator Tom Daschle, we hope so, and we'll be monitoring all your activities in the U.S. Senate. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
And we'll be right back with our Meet the Press Minute from December 2nd, 1951. Congressman John Kennedy talking about Pakistan, Israel, his trip to the Middle East and Far East after this.
Astronauts never go into space alone.
There's hundreds of people here on the ground supporting that mission.
We do everything from making the tools to teaching the astronauts how to use the tools. We teach them how to live in space.
It takes a lot of different kinds of simulators, a lot of different kinds of training devices.
You know, I may not be on that shuttle, but a part of me is there because of everything I've done on the ground.
Anywhere NASA wants to go, we can help get them there.
How fast can you make brilliant color prints in your office? With a Xerox Phaser 2135 color printer, you can make 21 color prints per minute. That's more than 3 times faster than HP's fastest color laser printer. Hey, catch us if you can. The Phaser 2135, one of the family of Xerox network printers.
Is there anything more beautiful than a baby's face? Well, as a matter of fact, there is. A baby's face lit by the amazing GE Reveal bulb. Reveal filters out dull yellow rays, leaving only clean, pure light. GE Reveal. There's nothing more beautiful than clean, pure light.
How do they see through the stockings?
How do they see through the stockings? They're sheer.
Right.
But you're missing the point of the story. The woman's car is commandeered, stranding her miles from the nearest FedEx location.
She's toast?
No. Directly across the street, her salvation.
Directly across the street?
Technically, it was kitty corner, but stay with me. Is it a mirage?
I don't know.
Is it a miracle?
Yes.
No. It is one of thousands of FedEx Express drop boxes strategically located at post office locations coast to coast.
Keeping the engines of commerce
well lubed. Precisely.
Our Meet the Press Minute from December 2nd, 51 with John Fitzgerald Kennedy after this brief station break.
This week, imagine losing your vision. No more driving, reading, seeing your family. Now a breakthrough to protect your sight. NBC Nightly News this week.
Tuesday, a child attacked. Her father takes action. Now a jury must decide if he's gone too far. An interactive Dateline Court TV exclusive Tuesday on NBC.
Every day, millions of people count on Williams to power their lives. To find, store, manage, and move almost every form of energy. From wherever it is to wherever it's needed. Cleanly, reliably, and efficiently. So to all those millions of people who count on Williams, now you know who's leading energy solutions.
Millions of women around the world suffer horrific violence every day. Why our pain is the same. Next, Oprah.
Monday at 4 on News Channel 8.
News Channel 8 can also be seen on these local translators.
The Middle East, Far East, always complicated for the United States. Here's how John Kennedy assessed it in 1951 after a visit to those regions.
Well, Mr. Kennedy, you've just come back from the Far East and the Middle East. Have we made many friends there in our effort to save them from communism and sometimes to save them from themselves?
Well, I think that it's generally agreed by everyone who goes there that the United States has few friends. I think that the policy of the government of Siam is perhaps oriented towards us. Pakistan has been very friendly. Israel has been very friendly. But with those, with 2 or 3 or 4 countries like that, except for those, most of the policies of these countries have been one of neutrality or perhaps latent hostility towards the policies of the United States.
Well, how do you explain it? Why have we made so few friends when we've tried so hard to help?
Well, I think that there are several explanations. In the first place, nearly all these countries, stretching from Morocco in the Atlantic Ocean to the Philippines on the other side, have been under the domination of Western European powers or the United States in the last 35 years, and some still are, and we are closely tied with those what they consider to be imperialist powers. And as it's a drive against the white race, and we are perhaps the strongest of the countries that might be considered that way to the Asiatics, we have fallen heir to much of the hatred that they incurred by their policy. Secondly, I think our policies have not been too wise since the end of the war. And in the third place, we are a strong power and a rich country, and therefore I think there's a natural animosity that goes with that sort of power, especially when we try to impose our will.
Well, what should we do in that area to improve the American position?
Well, I think that our propaganda in this whole area has been comparatively ineffective, even though I recognize the tremendous problem that we do have. It has been ineffective.
Pakistan and Israel being our friends, the need for better propaganda to say what's right about America, seems some things haven't changed in a half-century. We'll be right back.
Hurry, we'll miss kickoff.
Wait! Want a quick bite? Fruit, chips, roast Cornish game ham with baked potatoes, T-bone steak, clams on the half shell.
Huh?
Presenting a whole new way to cook, the Advantium oven from GE. It uses the power of light to cook in a fraction of the time. Food that used to take over an hour now takes 15 minutes. Baked potatoes, 10. And unlike with microwave ovens, it's crispy and juicy. The Advantium oven from GE.
I think we're a little early.
Cooking at the speed of life.
We're Pfizer. We're looking for a cure for your father's Alzheimer's, your sister's heart condition, your best friend's diabetes. We're spending nearly $5 billion on research this year and have 12,000 scientists and health experts looking for the cures of the future. Why do we work so hard? Because we have fathers, sisters, and best friends too. Pfizer. Life is our life's work.
Climate control on.
The 340 horsepower Infiniti Q45. The flagship of luxury cars. Period. The Q45 from Infiniti.
This is Jack, launching a second career. This is Jack's Money, helping Jack launch a second career. By working with a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch, Jack created a portfolio that lets him live off interest income while continuing to grow his principal, so he could retire early and pursue his true calling. At least he thinks it's his true calling. We'll leave that for the critics to decide.
All around the world, Siemens is energizing the cities and towns we live in. We engineer new ways to efficiently generate, distribute, and use power. And by providing energy to people everywhere, we're giving them the power to live better.
Spin, spin, spin the globe. It's your turn to spin the globe.
That's all for today. We'll be back next week. If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Is the market up? Is it down? That's the wrong question. The right question is, do you have a smart, long-term financial plan? If you were going to go out and play a football game, you just wouldn't run out into the field without a game plan, even though it may be 4th and long and it feels very uncomfortable. You have a plan and you have to stick to it. We've been helping people plan long-term for over 120 years. We understand and we know how to get through difficult times. The Principal Financial Group, we understand what you're working for.
The pictures of your life, they mean so much. But these pictures can save your life. They were taken by GE's new Discovery LS, a breakthrough in cancer detection. It not only locates a tumor, it tells immediately if it's cancerous or not, without surgery. The good news is, you're the picture of health. So now there can be more pictures like these. GE's Discovery LS. Ask your doctor about it.
How fast can you make brilliant color prints in your office? With a Xerox Phaser 2135 color printer, you can make 21 color prints per minute. That's more than 3 times faster than HP's fastest color laser printer. Hey, catch us if you can. The Phaser 2135, one of the family of Xerox network printers.
Our air is trying to tell us something. ADM believes that for every problem, nature has an answer. Ethanol, a cleaner burning fuel made from corn. It helps the air. It helps the farmers. And if we need more, we grow it. ADM, the nature of what's to come.
Meet the Press has been sponsored by ADM, the nature of what's to come.